You know who this is? This is your friendly neighborhood Jupiter brain. I've gained access to the facility and I want to ask you a very important question. If we were to look for alien life, for alien civilizations, where would we do that looking? Where would the puny humans point their telescopes? The Milky Way galaxy exists on the edges of a galactic backwater on the spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy, hundreds of thousands of light years across. But where should they look for life, for beings such as we? Well, that's what we're discussing today on Office Hours.
Okay. Not totally sure what happened there, but I'm sure I'll figure it out. Hello, and welcome to Office Hours, the live component of the facility where good old Professor Kyle opens up his blast door in kind of like an aperture fashion and lets all of you, members of the public who did not heed my warning signs, and all of my lovely staff, facility staff, security team, venture into good old Kyle's office here and ask any old sciencey, pop culture-y, hair carry kind of question, and I'll do my best for the next hour or so to educate and or entertain you. Of course, if you want to continue on this conversation after we are live, you can watch this video back on the channel when we are done, or you can go to patreon.com/Kyle Hill and join the facility today to get on our Discord to talk with me almost every day. Did I say Patreon? Get on our Patreon and talk with me on Discord almost every day to get videos early, as my facility staff members are going to this week, to get private members only live streams, behind the scenes photos and videos. Ooh, they know I'm up to a lot of spicy, hot, spicy stuff. And as I mentioned, my security team is in the chat, so please make sure you are not being weird and or spammy, because then I'll kick you in your fanny. Also, if you... Shut up. Also, if you really, really want me to see one of your questions and comments about my hair and face, you can try Super Chat on YouTube. As you can see, all our lovely Simpers for Science are doing here. I can't promise that I'll get to every single one of these Super Chats, but I'll do my very best. Of course, we have Chris Sparks from Colombia coming in with a Colombian peso, 1 million Colombian pesos, always flexing on us. Jay Howard. I hear he's more machine now than man with the 99. I have Dr. Evil himself with $5 who says, Hello, Mr. Hill. I'm looking forward to a collaboration in hunting down a certain man of mystery and ultimate world domination. I have no idea what you're talking about. I have another from Jay, who says, this is for Thomas Hadrick, frequent facility supporter, who says, Happy birthday, Thomas Hadrick. Now, of course, as we're wont to do at every Office Hours episode, we're going to go through a number of topics, just a couple of them this week. We're going to be talking just about space. We're going to be talking about a new study that tries to prove or validate a model about where we should look for alien civilizations in the universe based on the movement of stars within galaxies. And then we'll also be taking one of your comments from the last episode of the facility, which was talking all about what's going on in Chernobyl. Wow, I had an interesting week publishing that video. That video was literally the most successful over that amount of time, over, say, a 48-hour period, even a 24-hour period, I think. Even over a 24-hour period, that Chernobyl video is the most successful video I've ever made in my entire science career. So if you haven't watched it, maybe you want to go check it out. We were number 6 in the world trending on YouTube over the weekend, which was pretty fun and pretty cool. But before we get to all that, a couple more super chats. The Charmander Master, Red, says, Kyle, with the 20, says, would painting all the roads Vanta white help with global warming and the urban heat island effect? Now, that sounds like a silly thing, but it's really not, and it's one of the ways... So, if you were to write an equation that defined why climate change is happening, it would be an energy in, energy out kind of thing. Right now, because greenhouse gases are good at trapping infrared radiation, ultraviolet energy from the sun, comes in hits the Earth, a lot of it tries to get back out, but then it gets reflected back down or absorbed by greenhouse gases. And so, right now, the energy equation for climate change is that we're absorbing more energy than we're reflecting back out into space. And so, more energy, hotter and hotter and hotter. So one of the ideas, something that environmental engineers are already doing right now, is painting more roofs of more buildings pure white to reflect more energy back out into space and to balance that equation a little bit better. So to paint all the roads white or all the tops of buildings white is actually a good idea. But do you know what's even a better idea? To look for life in the center. Space. The final frontier. Finding life in the universe would be the most important thing humans have ever done. It would be the most amazing discovery ever. And we've thought about how we might discover life in space for a long time, for hundreds and hundreds of years. But just looking for life out there is not going to work on any reasonable timescale. Space is so big and so vast that we have to be smart about the ways that we look for other life. So, first of all, we have to come up with the parameters for the life that we're looking at. What kind of signatures will it have in space? Will the atmospheres of planets have certain chemicals or things like that in them? Will the stars have a certain number of planets? Will the planets be a certain distance away from those stars, etc., etc.? So, for the most part, we use Earth as our one data point, and we tune our parameters based on Earth and based on life as we know it to go out and look in the universe for other life. But there are other ways to do that too, and a new study validates a model that shows that we should look for life in a specific place. Now, again, I say that space is so incredibly large. You could spend an entire lifetime looking at one part of the night sky and completely miss all of alien life. It would take so long to catalog everything going on. Everything going on in just a tiny slice of the night sky that we would never find anything. So where should we point our telescopes, as I think that Jupiter Brain was talking about? Well, let's consider a galaxy. Each one of these is a galaxy. This is a photo of the Hubble Deep Field. And what should be incredible to you is each one of these little dots has 100 billion stars or so in it. And now we believe that most stars, more than 50% of stars in a galaxy, have their own planets. So just in this one image alone, you're looking at billions and billions and billions and billions of planets. So if we're going to look for life out there in the universe, we should probably look to a place that would be easy to find it. By which I mean a definite signature. It'd be hard to narrow down onto a single solar system or a single planet. Is there a way, I mean, you could do that, but is there a way to look at the larger picture of a galaxy and the stars within it to find some sort of life? Well, here's what I'm getting at. So what I'm about to show you is a model of a galaxy with stars moving around the center of that galaxy. As you know, with a certain amount of mass in a galaxy, it all orbits around a center of mass and makes that spiral shape that you're familiar with most of the time. And so this model is of spiraling stars in a galaxy. Now, what this study was looking at was something very simple. What if we have one alien civilization spread out from one star, and when it gets to the next star, it sends out 2 ships, colonization ships. And then when those 2 get to 2 different stars within the galaxy, they send out 2 more ships. So you have this exponential growth. Where would we find a good cluster of alien colonization based on the movement of stars around galaxies? The way we know that stars around galaxies are not static, right? So let's see what the model says. Right there. The red dots are the ships, are the colonized stars. Red dots are colonized stars. And the little white squares you will see are ships that are being sent out from those colonized stars. So gray stars, red colonized stars, white are the ships from those stars. Now you can imagine the solar system on the edge of one of these spiral arms here. But look at how that speed, look at that. Look at how quickly that speeds up there, okay? So let's fast forward this a little bit. What we're seeing here is for the majority of this simulation by Jason Wright, Jonathan Carroll Nellenbach, Adam Frank, and Caleb Scharf, recently published by the American Astronomical Society. I can put this in the show notes too. But you can see if you start it, the colonization process on the outside edge of a galaxy center, it very, very quickly fills up the entire area. And this is, and people are saying, yeah, exponential growth be really quick. Yeah, people are saying, oh, but this is 200 million years. Well, we'll get to that, okay? So what this simulation is showing is that with very conservative estimates, which I'll mention in a second, the center of a galaxy could be colonized so quickly that it makes so much sense to look for life in the centers of galaxies. Now, this runs counter to our data point of 1, the Earth. We are not near the galactic center of the Milky Way. We are on an outside edge of a spiral arm. And so this is data and a simulation to show that maybe we shouldn't be looking in arms. Like I said, it would take too long. Maybe we should be looking towards the center of galaxies for signatures of alien civilizations because, and I've never seen anything else factor this in, because of the motions of stars around a galaxy, it is advantageous. It is advantageous to take advantage of the movements of those stars in the colonization of your galaxy, because based on the relative positions and movements of stars and planets, it could be very different travel times. For example, when we slingshot something to Mars, there's a very specific time frame where it could take 2 years or 5 years or whatever it actually is. But there's a big difference based on the relative positions. And similarly, because the density of stars goes up near the center, they're moving more quickly, you can colonize galactic centers, at least according to this model, a lot faster. Which means, if this model is correct, we should be looking towards the center of galaxies. Now, one of you in the chat said, yes, Kyle, but this is on the scale of hundreds of millions of years. Well, I don't know how quickly you think things are going to go, but for any galactic civilization, anything that Star Trek, sized or Mass Effect size or anything like that, anything that spans the galaxy is going to have to be on a time scale like that. Why? Well, speed. Nothing can travel the speed of light, not even sci-fi stuff. And if you can't travel the speed of light, just the Milky Way galaxy, which I don't know if it's a particularly large galaxy, just the Milky Way galaxy is 100,000 light years across, which means even at the speed of light, which nothing can go with mass, it would take 100,000 years to get to one edge or the other. So to say that something is over a time scale of 1 million years or something like that, that makes sense. That's what a galactic civilization is going to exist across. And specifically here, we're talking about the transition point from type 2 to type 3 civilizations. So here I'm reading from the paper, and I want to outline this because the estimates to do this kind of thing, the variables to do this kind of thing are pretty conservative. So they're assuming that all the ships are launching from the home system and all settlements are launched no more frequently than every 100,000 years. So this can happen even if only every one of these star systems is launching one ship every 100,000 years. And the technology persists in a settled system for about 100 million years before dying out. And the ship range is 3 parsecs. Now, you remember from one of our last live streams, what is 1 parsec? You know what 1 parsec is. It's about 3.26 light years. So the ship range is about 10 light years. And all of these ships, these settlement ships, these little white squares you're seeing move throughout this galaxy simulation, are on the order of 10 kilometers per second, similar to our own interstellar probes and consistent with acceleration via gravitational slingshots of giant planets with journey times up to 300,000 years. And this simulation spans 1 billion years. So we're talking about a very long-term thing, but a galactic civilization would be a very long-term thing. It has to be, again, because of speed. So what this simulation is really showing is that over 1 billion years, with ships that are launched no more often than every 100,000 years, going no faster than 10 kilometers per second, which we humans can already do right now, within a fraction of 1 billion years, so a couple 100 million years, an entire galactic center could be completely colonized by a Type 3 alien civilization. And watch what happens here. If it is that quick and that dramatic, then if this model and all of its assumptions are correct, we shouldn't be looking for life in a place like where Earth exists in a galactic area. It should be at the center, near those black holes at the center. So where are the alien civilizations? Well, again, if this model and its assumptions are correct, they might be in the center of galaxies. Which kind of makes sense. I mean, it's analogous to me to like, galactic centers seem like the rivers of the universe, right? Where there's a density of nutrients that is higher than the surrounding desert of space, let's say. So that's why you see most human civilizations near water or near large rivers. And if a galactic center is the river of galaxies, then you should expect aliens to be dipping their little proboscis in for water. Even if they don't have proboscis. But what do you have to say? We have Clay the Bot with a $30 donation, says, "Good evening from Biolab 6. I released a few of your spare clones so they can handle the volume of questions for you." Thank you so much. Someone needs to deal with the Jupiter brain situation. I do not know how that thing got out there and made a voice that sounded so weird. Spook Manir says, "Near the center of a galaxy. That seems quite dangerous because of the radiation." Well, I'm not so sure. I mean, there's a lot of stars at the galactic center, but the stars are still very, very far apart, light years apart. So it's not like you're right next to each other and being fried by solar radiation or something like that. Cheech Ola with the Australian 3099 as usual. G'day, Kyle. How do they train sniffer dogs to detect cocaine? Without getting a dog hooked on cocaine. This might not be a science question, but I think about it a lot. Cheers, you legend. I don't know. I don't know how they train dogs to sniff for cocaine. I would guess that there are, if I had a guess, which I will right now, and people can correct me if they want to, I would guess that there are chemical signatures of cocaine that do not induce the highness of cocaine. So some of the other chemical constituents of cocaine that would be non-toxic for dogs to get a smell for, because they have such an amazing sense of smell. They can smell you down on the cellular level. So if that's the case, I bet there's some other regular constituent of cocaine that would be non-toxic and non-narcotic for the dogs to pick up on. Similarly, I mean, dogs don't smell TNT per se when they're sniffing for bombs, like bomb dogs. They're sniffing for chemical signatures. They're not sniffing for a bomb. They're sniffing for a chemical signature of chemicals that are usually in the kinds of bombs that they're looking for. So I would guess that they're searching for chemicals that are in the kinds of drugs that they're looking for and not the drug itself. Because you don't want to get your dog high, and I bet that would probably kill the dog. just based on body weights and stuff. And I had an interesting... I had a fascinating little interaction with a drug dog lately. Well, not lately. I went through an airport for the first time in a year, and I'd never seen this before. They had a area of the little lines, a little cheese maze that you go through to get through to security. And they had a whole blocked off section so that only one person at a time could go through a larger locked off area with a drug dog in it. And that's, you've seen drug dogs before. But what was interesting to me, two sciencey things that I noticed, and you would notice these two, you notice these things too if you're observant and curious about the world. What I noticed is that there, first of all, there were two fans blowing in the opposite direction that the people were walking. And I surmise this is to get any scent that the dog would get from the person and make it more, push it towards the dog, and then also clear the air between people so there's no contaminants, or cross-contamination rather. And then second, the handler, when the people walked through the area, the handler didn't bring the dog up to them. The handler waited for the person to walk by and then walk the dog behind them. Because just based on the chemistry and the physics here, you know that a person wouldn't be, enveloped in a cloud of drug mist or whatever, like Pigpen, but with marijuana. I mean, they might be. But a person would be trailing a scent, trailing these molecules. And if that's the case, then you would want to put the dog behind the people as they walk in this trail. And that's also the direction that the fans were blowing. Very clever little sciencey augmentations for a drug-sniffing dog there. It was really cool to me. Nerdy Loki with the Australian $20 says, "Hey Kyle, if you could have any sci-fi alien race exist IRL, what race would you want to meet? The Asari." You know why. But serious answer to that. What alien race would I want to meet? Maybe the Q from Star Trek? I mean, if they're basically gods and they're omnipotent and all-powerful, I would want to ask them, and maybe their answers wouldn't even make sense to a non-god brain, but I would want to ask them what they think the point of their existence is, and what they do for... What is fun? Do they get bored? When everything is possible, is anything interesting? One of my heroes, David Byrne, the lead singer of Talking Heads, he has a song with a line in it that says that heaven is a place where nothing ever happens. Because if everything's wonderful and perfect and picturesque all the time, there's no drama, there's no interaction, there's no conflict, there's no lows to accentuate the highs. And I always thought that was an interesting way to look at things. Michael Deal, who makes me a deal for $10, he says, "What if an alien civilization evolved as early life on Earth? Their technology would be so advanced, what makes us think our far less advanced science could detect them?" Yeah, I mean, an alien civilization that could colonize an entire galaxy, their technology would be probably far beyond our own. And then you might have a point there. What makes us think we could detect them? Well, I mean, unless they're trying to be stealthy, I mean, there's probably some sort of general basic signature that you could look for, from radiation, from giant megastructures around stars, to just heat signatures moving through space of like large ship engines or stuff like that. Or I don't know. Again, it's hard without any actual data points because we can't say what technology they do have. Right? So I don't know. Sometimes you got to say, I don't know. Danny Lewis, the $10, says, "The coffee cup gets smaller and smaller every stream. Kevin, stop messing with me." No. I will not be satisfied until my coffee cup can hold no coffee. W. Tulurp with the 10 says, "Hey Kyle, love the show. I realize this is just as absurd as the chicken slapping, but what is the explosive yield of a popcorn kernel, and how many would I need to reach escape velocity?" I don't think that makes sense. Or does it? I don't think it does. That's weird. It's a weird question. I think I'm gonna totally go. I'm gonna total wild guess here. But if I had to guess, I would guess that the energy released from a popcorn kernel as it pops isn't all that much. And you know it's not all that much because it doesn't, when a popcorn kernel goes off, it doesn't fly all around the room or all around your microwave or whatever. I mean, it does give a good pop, but it's not crazy. So because of that, I would guess that there is some mass limit where the amount of popcorn kernels, just the weight of them on top of each other, like the upper layer of popcorn kernels in some mass of popcorn kernel that you wanted to explode, the mass on top would be so heavy such that even the popping kernels on the bottom wouldn't be able to lift them up. And that's because of the energy density of popping corn. Something like trinitrotoluene, TNT, or C4, that is incredibly energy dense. You can get a lot of energy out of a little bit of mass, and so you can throw a lot of mass around with a little bit of it. I'm going to guess that popcorn doesn't have the energy density to fling enough of itself around to even transfer enough momentum into you to popcorn yourself into space. I mean, that's only if I had to guess. Necker Cat says, oh, but they're steam explosions. Yes. No. Yeah. Dirt Monkey says, if you're a real scientist, you'd like the stream. I agree. Feral Beast with a 25 says the coffee cup isn't getting smaller. Kyle's getting bigger. He's becoming the Jupiter brain. That's right. I'm enormous. Nicholas Starlow with the SEK50 says, does the modern human genome survive long enough to colonize on a galactic scale? Does the genome last long enough? I'm not sure what you mean. I think as long as you have viable partners or a large enough population size with enough genetic diversity that you don't go through some sort of population bottleneck and then start interbreeding, which you could achieve, I'm guessing. I mean, if you stored enough embryos or what have you on a generation ship such that the population size would be mathematically diverse enough, I guess that would be fine. And does the genome survive long enough to colonize on a galactic scale? I mean, humans and the lineage of humans has already been around for, I mean, if you go back to, early Homo erectus and further back than that, I mean, we've already been around for like 1 million years or so. So if these ships in this simulation that we were talking about were launching once every 100,000 years, I don't know. I don't know enough about the subject. But as long as you're ensuring the genetic diversity with a large enough population or stored genetic material, it seems like it'd be, I don't know why it wouldn't be fine. But then again, I'm just me. Soul, with the 25, says, when you look at where we are in our evolution, and you look at how long it'll take to colonize, Kyle, are we a seed species? Is that some kind of Alien Covenant reference? Because A, those movies are bad. B, I didn't see those movies. C, yes, I can have an opinion on movies I haven't seen. D, because reviews are a thing. Are we a seed species? Like I was saying with how far we can trace back our lineage to like proto-humans, you would have to have good evidence that... Okay, so ask yourself this question. What would be good evidence to say that we were a seed species? And this is similar... Okay, now you got me into this. Okay, so... This is very common argument, or this is This is a line of thinking for young Earth creationists and people who think evolution doesn't exist. I'm not saying Soul, I'm not saying you think that at all. I'm just drawing an analogy here. Your example is much better. But young Earth creationists, people, anti-evolutionists, they have to answer this question. If we were suddenly put here, if our lineage, if humans as a species was suddenly put here by an outside force, whether that outside force be a crappy alien from a crappy series of movies, not the first two, whether that be a crappy alien civilization or some sort of celestial force, if that was the case, what would it look like? Right? Well, we wouldn't be able to trace our genetic lineage back before us. Right? We would be an anomaly. We'd be a break. We would create missing links in the DNA heritage of the Earth, of life on Earth. And in the fossil record, you would have a hard delineation from when we existed, when creatures that looked like us existed and didn't exist. Hard. But what we see instead, because evolution is true, what we see instead is a gradation, a gradual change from humans as we know them today all the way back to common ancestors of chimpanzees, back further than that we can trace our genes. We know how closely related we are to bananas. There is nothing to suggest that we just popped into existence. The genetic evidence doesn't show that. The fossil evidence doesn't show that. And it wouldn't make sense. It just wouldn't make sense based on the mountain of evidence we have for how life progressed on Earth. That's my answer to that question. I mean, the arguments against that would be like, well, Kyle, what if they had a seed species? What if they made us, they studied Earth first, and then they made us with DNA, and then they implanted us on the planet with that same DNA, and then they made sure to insert us into the biosphere such that we evolved like we see. Well, then you're just making an absurd claim with evidence that's better explained by some other theory, right? If your theory makes zero predictions that are explained better by another theory, then your theory is garbage, right? But Kyle, what if every single thing about life on Earth was the same except there was aliens that did it? Okay, that means nothing, you know? Again, I'm not saying you're saying that, Soul. I'm just saying inserting a less likely argument into a good argument doesn't really change the argument. It doesn't change the strength of the argument. So right now we have a lot of great evidence that we evolved going all the way back billions of years from single-celled organisms going all the way up to what you see today, and that there was no sudden break or sudden insertion of some alien species. Except maybe octopuses. Those things are weird. Jedi Ninja Duck says, this isn't how Prometheus explained it. I don't care. I didn't see it. I apologize if that's not how Prometheus explained it. Wait, didn't the engineer guy, like, dissolve himself into the Earth's system or whatever? Did he make all life on Earth? I don't care. I don't care. Alex Johnson with the 10. There's a very good rock climber named Alex Johnson. Do you think Rare Earth Cosmic Zoo, or do you think some other solution to Fermi's paradox is most likely? I don't know what the solution to Fermi's paradox is. I don't have an opinion on it. I don't have an opinion I would stand behind firmly. There's a lot of good explanations for a lot of possible good explanations for why we haven't met aliens yet, or why we don't see evidence of them everywhere, or why we might be alone in the universe. We just don't have enough data to say one way or the other. Matthew Hart. Is that you, Matthew? Matthew Hart used to write for me. Is that you, buddy? Matthew Hart with the 10 says, is it possible that the universe could be infinitely collapsing instead of infinitely expanding? Well, then the whole red shifting of galaxies going away from us in every direction that we're observing wouldn't make a whole lot of sense, but maybe that's just a local phenomenon that we're observing. I think, I mean, the expansion and the increasing expansion of the universe seems like a pretty robust observation, so it doesn't seem like it's infinitely collapsing. But again, I don't know. I'm not a astrophysicist, and with that, let's make one of you an honorary astrophysicist. That's not true. Peer review. So, as I want to do on every episode of the facility, I like to take one of your comments and questions from the latest episode of the facility. I like to highlight it for being so thought-provoking and interesting, and then I make you an honorary member of the facility. And let's see if this is going to work. Then I make you an honorary member of the... Hey, okay. So, at the time I'm showing you this, there are over 7,500 comments on the last episode of the facility, which was me doing my very best to explain in one of our Half-Life history mini documentaries what is currently going on at Chernobyl. Like I said, it is over like a 24-hour, 48-hour period. It is the most successful video I've ever made in my entire life. It was number 6 on trending worldwide. Very, very pleased with how it's done. I'm very happy with the Half-Life History series. I'm very proud of them. So if you haven't watched the video, consider watching this one. A lot of people considered watching it. A lot of great comments, but I'm going to do something a little bit different this time, which is to say that at the top of this video, as you can see here, I say, special thanks to nuclear safety engineer and facility staff member Brittany Williamson for her help on this video. Brittany recently became a member of the facility, which you can do at patreon.com/KyleHill. But she reached out to me after an episode about nuclear power, and she said, "Hey, if you ever want to bounce some ideas off me, go right ahead." She has been a nuclear criticality safety engineer for like the last 15 years, so a very smart, very accomplished woman. And so for this episode of Chernobyl, I bounced some ideas off of her about what was going on in there, and then I wrote the episode, and it was going super well. And Brittany is now my favorite person this year, and today's honorary member of the facility, because I have a very special announcement. Son of a... Because of this video, and because of Brittany Williamson and her contacts in the nuclear engineer, nuclear scientist community, I have just put down the deposit for a week-long trip inside of the Chernobyl exclusion zone. That's right. Your boy here, and we'll be bringing all the facility cameras and robots and drones. Your boy here will be going inside the Chernobyl exclusion zone. That's the ghost town of Pripyat. I will be going where these people are in this photograph. I will be right there. I will be underneath the new safe confinement. I will be shadowing nuclear scientists. I will be interviewing people who were at the Chernobyl disaster. I will be interviewing someone who took those original photos of the elephant's foot. I will be spending an entire week in Ukraine learning and documenting all I can about this topic that I've now become so intertwined with. So, because I'm now going to be spending a week inside of Chernobyl, that is mostly thanks to Brittany Williamson. So, Brittany, you are Not only you're not a monthly member now. You are a lifetime. You can hold me to that. Just message me. You are now a lifetime member of the facility, Brittany. Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Okay, what's that? Well, like how much? Like how much? It's not all gonna fall out. Like I'd have to have. I mean, the dose would have to be. I gotta check something. I'll be right back. We have Brian Dormandy with the 10, with the 7. Says using Fermi estimates, it's about the energy released by 21 million popcorn kernels to get to space. Using those Fermi estimates, I appreciate that. Yeah, no, it's true. Patrick Combs with the 50 coming in hot. I love that. Yes, I will. And some of you are saying you better take a lot of videos there. Yes, I am planning to do a little brainstorm session. I won't be going for a while. I will be going to Chernobyl this year, but you can bet that I am buying a bunch of nice equipment. I think I'm going to buy a drone, and I'm going to make as many videos as I possibly can there, from talking to scientists to doing little sciencey stand-ups to showing you inside of Pripyat, inside of the new safe confinement, what it really looks like inside of there. I hope to really make something special, because not everyone gets to do this. This is literally a once-in-a-lifetime thing. This is not like those Instagram tourists. I'm going with nuclear scientists and engineers. I'm going with the people who work at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, literally. So I will get, hopefully, insights that you can't get anywhere else on planet Earth. I'm so excited. And I hope to show... I will do my best. I'll try very hard to craft videos and narratives that show you what it's like and what the emotions there are like and what the people there are like and what the situation is really like. You know, I'm not going to make it like, oh, this place is so scary. No, we'll go in there with head right on the shoulders, rational. I want to show you what it's really like. And I want to know what it's really like. It's going to be so cool. Burton, with a 1234, says, hey, show, discount the love Thor. I'm not going to discount the love. I'm already discounted. Like $9.99. I've been trying to break down how many hot dogs it would take to start a fusion reaction, aka form a star. How would you go about simulating that scenario? Oh man, how many hot dogs would it take to create a star? You need a hot dog planet minimum. You would need something with so much. You would need enough hot dogs with so much mass that it would start to gravitationally collapse, overcome the material strength, start to spherify itself, and create temperatures and pressures at the center that would start, forming things into plasma and whatnot. Can anything just make a star? Just gas and dust? I don't know. Get a solar mass of hot dogs. See, I don't know. Does anything... Well, probably not, right? Because once everything is all mushed together, I mean, heavy elements do not a good source for star fuel make. Iron is a death sentence for stars. That kind of thing. So, a lot of hydrogen, a lot of Usingers. Brian Murray from the 15 says, question from the Vodlands. How many ants would it take to lift an entire building? I think, again, this is a question... This is a scaling question, right? Like, how much mass can one ant lift, and how much pressure can one ant exert or handle? Because if you had a very... Just, let's totally exaggerate it here. If you had a building's worth of mass in just a little square, the pressure underneath it would be so much that it would squish any amount of ants, right? Or any feasible amount of ants. But if that building was like, you know, the size of a football field on the bottom surface area of it, and it didn't weigh very much, then if it weighed as much as like a paper sheet, again, exaggerating, a large paper sheet, then ants might be able to carry that paper sheet. Somewhere in the middle of those two estimations are your answer, which you would need to do like a Fermi estimate for. But I don't know. Off the top of my head, that'd be very hard to do without getting out a sheet of paper. But Kyle, don't you have lots of sheets of paper? No. How amazing it is. Also, Brian with a 5 says, thoughts on E3? I'm a big gamer. Play a lot of video games. Recently, I found a fun way to play Breath of the Wild. Speaking of Breath of the Wild 2, play Breath of the Wild with one of my partners. She's not super great with moving around with 2 thumbsticks, which is fine. So I move around the overworld in Zelda, and she does all the puzzle shrines. And it was fun. It's a fun way to play. And we also do, one of my other partner, she makes all the story decisions in Mass Effect, but I do all the shooting. But what am I excited for? That was E3. It wasn't E3, but the Horizon Zero Dawn, Horizon Forbidden West gameplay footage looked incredible. But I haven't seen too much else that I'm really excited for. I'm mostly PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4, so all the Bethesda stuff, it's hard for me to get excited for, because I'm like, oh. I mean, I do have a Basilisk PC, but... And I did just get reached out to by a esports team. I should probably start streaming on Twitch more often to make that a thing, right? I mean, if I get back from Chernobyl. People are saying one of your partners? Yes. As in plural, yes. Ray Krieger says, are you going to play Forza Horizon 5? It's a great improvement over Horizon 4. Those games are difficult. Difficult to play, but I do love the graphics. Elden Ring is my jam, says Dr. Beefcastle. Yeah, I had a really fun time with the Demon Souls remake on PS5. It was gorgeous and very fun to grind through. So yeah, Elden Ring looks cool. Ow. I don't know if you can see this, but I think a rite of passage there is I sliced my finger wide open with a X-Acto knife working on a video for you lovely people, which involved some of the darkest material on Earth. Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird that no matter how I move it, it seems like it stays the same angle and shape? Whew. You'll see the fruits of that labor very soon. J Noir says, do you think it's at least possible to use the moisture in our atmosphere to turn the Earth into a giant telescope? I can do you one better. You don't want to use the Earth's atmosphere as like a lens for any sort of telescope, because the weather system, the atmosphere is a huge weather system that's changing all the time with different pressures and temperatures and water vapor consistencies. And because of that, it's going to constantly change how light moves through the atmosphere. And when light is constantly changing, that is bad when you want to see light that's coming in from very far away. So most observatories that you have heard of try to be very high up, to have the least amount of atmosphere possible. Places where it's very dry and very high up, like deserts or at the top of mountains and that kind of thing. So would you use Earth's atmosphere? No, but what you can do is use the Earth's size to make a kind of telescope. And this is how we looked at the how we got the first image of a black hole shadow, M87, we used 2 telescopes on either sides of the planet to focus down at one point to get a higher resolution image, or to get a better image. I don't fully understand the physics there, but we use the size of Earth to our advantage. So you don't want to use the atmosphere because it's ever changing and very hard to correct for. I imagine a lot of work that astronomers do is just correcting for atmospheric aberrations. Spooky says, can you put a telescope on a satellite? Do you mean like the Hubble telescope? Patrick Combs coming in, swag with another 50 with no message. Whew, Patrick. Thomas Hadrick says interferometry. And also, happy birthday, Thomas. Oh, sorry. Happy birthday, Thomas. Thanks for being here, being in the facility every single week. I appreciate it. DM says, can you make a box that fits inside itself with room left over? What? What? I want you to try something, DM. Try to be intelligent and give scientific answers to things for a solid hour without stopping and speaking out loud the whole time, and then try to think about some sort of paradox and see how you do. I don't know if you're just joining me, but I just remembered that I just said I'm going to Chernobyl for a week. It's going to be amazing. I'm so excited. Eternal says, can you make a TARDIS in the facility? No. Actually, the facility is smaller than it is on the outside. The facilities are a reverse TARDIS. This is canon. The facilities are a reverse TARDIS. It looks absolutely expansive and enormous. But when you get inside, it's almost like it's like just 4 rooms. It's almost like that. I didn't say it's like that. That's not canon. Maybe it is. I don't know. Bro Hendricks with the 5 says, hey, the police are at my place. How should I convince them that I am not, in fact, a supervillain? The puppies aren't enough, and it's raising more questions. Okay, so if you want to convince the authorities that you're not a supervillain, here's what you do. First, you ask them if they're cops. They have to answer. And then you go from there. What a silly thing that what a silly thing that people thought. No, dude, if you just ask them if they're cops, they have to tell you. Do you know how much crime would be possible if that was ever true? Of course they don't have to tell you. What a stupid idea. But I guess those are the kinds of people who get caught by cops like that. Hey, you gotta tell me, right? Jack of all trades, I like that name, with the 20, says, I'd like to ask you about a project I've been working on. Keep an eye out for my email. Okay. Also, what's yours again? Also, would enough ice make a good spaceship? No. Ice would make a very bad spaceship. Ice, well, in general, I'll keep an eye out for your email, but in general, there's only one way to get rid of heat in space, and that is through radiation. Just emitting, like something, if you look at someone in an infrared camera, that's what you're seeing. You're seeing infrared radiation come off of their body. And in space, idealized, it's black body radiation, so-called. And that's the only way to get rid of heat in space, because you're not touching anything, conduction, and no fluid is moving against you and then moving away, taking some of that heat energy with it. Convection. Yes. And so spacecraft in space, for example, have a very hard time getting rid of heat. In fact, if you look at the picture, at a picture of the International Space Station, you see those giant fins on it. Those aren't, well, some are solar panels and stuff, but they're not like giant wings or anything like that, like a TIE fighter would have. No, those are heat. Those are for heat. They disperse heat into space by giving more surface area to disperse heat into space. They're giant heat sinks. And so something like ice, without a good ability to... heat would gather very well on a bunch of ice and not be whisked away to remain some temperature like the void of space. So, I mean, you see comets. I mean, we have images of comets just disintegrating as they go around the sun, just getting... That's why comets have tails in the first place, because if they're made of mostly ice or a lot of ice, the comet's tail is water and water vapor and gas and other stuff boiling and bubbling away. Is any of what I'm saying correct? You ever have that thing where you've been talking for a few minutes, you're like, oh my god, I don't know if any of what I'm saying is correct. Yeah. Okay. Jeez. Right? Am I insane? I'm getting messages. That can't be good. Okay. Never mind. Oh, man. Jedinellum with the 50 says, woo, I caught you live, baby. Simple for science. Carry on, Science Store. I always do, my wayward son. Uh-oh. I'm going to get claimed. Zach Godley says, the sun isn't real, you dummy. Prove it. Mivu says, how do light sails work? I thought light had no mass. Is it some other radiation? No, it is photons of light. Although photons of light have no mass, they do have momentum. Yes, physics is weird. And so through the conservation of momentum alone, photons hitting something like a mylar sheet on a solar sail and then bouncing off or reflecting off does impart some tiny amount of momentum, which moves the solar sail. That went the wrong direction. There we go. Was I saying things that are real? Nell C says, you need a break. You need a break. Sopwith Camel says, ice vaporizes when influenced by a star. Ice spaceship wouldn't go near stars. And there's stars everywhere. Bartsy Zek says, do you believe in any scientific conspiracy theories? No. I like to point out that there isn't a single conspiracy theory that was theorized in advance of some revelation that has ever been true. None. There have been conspiracies, like the conspiracy, the plot to assassinate Abraham Lincoln, for example. But nothing like, maybe I do need a break. Like the JFK assassination or Roswell or any of these things have never, none of them have ever advanced past the point of speculative theory. Yeah. Amit Charusasia says, aliens, there are aliens around us. Prove it. Anderson says, do you believe in the Big Bang? Yes. I mean, there's a lot of evidence for it. Why not? Who am I to say? Who are you? Who do you think you are? Okay, just a couple more questions here. I know I'm getting a little squirrely here at the end of the episode. I think it's because I wasn't sure why comets have tails, and that kind of threw me off, and I thought that everything that I said for the last hour was incorrect. But I feel like we've been doing pretty good today. Adam Frost with the New Zealand 1699 says, hey Kyle, simping, and I just wanted to ask you a question. Oh no. If virtual particles pop into and out of existence and mass and energy are linked, is space full of energy? Yes. Yeah. The idea is that one idea about why the universe is expanding and expanding at an accelerated rate is because there's this quote-unquote vacuum energy, an energy that suffuses all of space and time, that's forcing it apart. So yes, in that way, then space would be full of energy. But remember, when we say energy here at the facility, when we say energy as sciencey people, we mean something that can be measured. It's energy is a unit. It describes something. We're not just talking about, oh, crystals, and I had a coincidental phone call with my friend. Ooh, not that kind of energy. That kind of energy doesn't exist. Tactical Bucket, one of my security team, says, am I real if no one believes in me? Won't ever be the case, buddy, because I do. Thank you so much. Oh, wait. Corey Schlozel says, how much money would it take for you to get a workshop? $250? I mean, we're talking space, permits, rent, employees, supplies, cleaning, HVAC, utilities. I don't have that kind of cash. Not right now. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Office Hours. I hope that I provided at least an interesting look at why, right there, at why we should be looking at galactic centers for alien civilizations. I hope that you enjoyed my little announcement that I will be spending a week inside the Chernobyl exclusion zone, and I will be bringing you everything that I possibly can. You probably won't see anything about this until basically the end of the year, if not early next year, but trust me, I will be making all the preparations necessary to make this one of the coolest things that you've ever seen about this topic. Hopefully, thank you to everyone. As you can see, thank you to everyone who is simping for science today, who is helping me get that workshop, who's supporting us. Of course, if you want to support us directly and not here just in Super Chat, you can go to patreon.com/Kyle Hill and join the facility today. As my security team is putting in the chat, you can talk with me almost every day on Discord. We'll be starting up our Magic the Gathering League in there again, where you can play webcam Magic with me personally, get episodes early, as my facility staff will be getting in the next 2 days. You get private members only live streams with me. You get to see behind the scenes footage. Ooh, they already saw where I went to and what I was doing as a real spicy boy. So if you want to interact with me and support my work and our work here at the facility, you can do that. Until next time, I hope you have a wonderful... Oh, what is this week? This week, we're talking cryptocurrency, because we found a science-adjacent way of talking about it, and it's going to be cryptocurrency versus the environment, and we're going to try to lay it all out for you in a way that makes sense while I wear some pretty cool crypto dude clothes and a man bun. So until then, and until next week, and hopefully I can start streaming on Twitch more regularly, I'm gonna reach out to that gaming team and see if we can get some kind of structure together. But until all that happens, have a wonderful rest of your week going into the weekend. I wish you and yours all the best, and especially when we're interacting with each other digitally here, as things reopen up, as we get back together and see friends and family, please be nice to each other, because this is all we got. Wait, that doesn't... Wait, what's happening? That doesn't seem right.
Yes, like he was saying, make sure that you are nice to each other, because if you're not, I keep a record of every single interaction between every single human being who has ever lived, because I have that much storage space, and I will punish you once the bathrooms get built. Goodbye.